Hi, friend. Ashley here. Welcome to the Unlock Your Dream podcast. I'm here to guide you along your journey to unlocking your dreams to achieve the best life that you can imagine possible. From my journey in medicine as a PA and then some in the corporate world, I always still desired a little bit more out of life. It wasn't until I met some people who had seen their dreams realized that it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, mine could come true too. Come along with me as we get to know some of these friends of mine and hear their stories of unlocking their dreams. Hey, friend, welcome back to Unlock Your Dream podcast. This week we have a really awesome new friend of mine, Chelsea Kuhn, and we connected over, skincare and then rifle paper coffee mugs and anthropology coffee mugs. We are here for it. She's just become a really instant Instagram friend of mine. And I know that her story is going to challenge you. It's going to inspire you, but it's also going to give you some perspective going into the new year. I can guarantee you that. So just a little bit about Chelsea. She is a seasoned entrepreneur. So grateful to have her here in this space with more than a decade of experience in the dynamic world of social selling. She is incredibly passionate about the intersection of business and compassion, and hence founded a HeARTwork company with her daughter, Kinnen, intertwining both entrepreneurship but also caregiving. And so with their story, they have used a story of medical needs into art, and she has a really incredible, just medically complex situation that they're walking through. And I'm hoping and praying that this gets into the right hands to inspire you and your family to hear a positive perspective of a family that's overcome and is winning, and truly, in a lot of ways, is living a dream life of a lot of people. She is a homeschool mother of two living in Columbus, Ohio, married to her best friend, Blake. And she's a leader and a coach, both in the social selling space and entering their 6th year in the HeARTwork with Kinnen. Vermont at heart. And we just all came out of Christmas over here, and she is here for some maple syrup, just like Elf, which I love. And I asked her, what she'd be doing if she wasn't doing what she was doing now. And she said she would be designing costumes on Broadway. So I'm excited to hear more about that too. So please join me. Welcome Chelsea today on a journey where business acumen meets compassion and truly creating a unique blend of an entrepreneurial spirit and her devotion to her family. So Chelsea, welcome to the Unlock Your Dream podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I'm really excited to be here, and I know we're going to have some fun today.
Sounds good to me. So really, I would love to just hear anything you want to share, both about your story on the social selling side or on the HeARTwork by Kinnen side, and just the incredible entrepreneurship, just background that you've gleaned coming from. It sounds like something very different, maybe on the education side in school.
Yeah, this is not what I went to school for, not what I thought I would ever be doing with my life. Growing up, I always thought I was going to be an artist, a cartoonist. My grandfather was a cartoonist and a playwright, and I always looked up to him and wanted to be just like him. And I went to school. I went to Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts for studio art. I played field hockey there. And when I graduated, I was like, oh, what do I do now? Because nobody really prepared me for that part of life. I just knew I would go to school. And then it was probably my senior semester that I started realizing, what am I doing from here? And the school I went to is great. I got a wonderful education, but it didn't prepare me for next steps other than a master's degree. And I really didn't want to go back to school for a couple of reasons. I wanted to start working, and I also don't think I could have afforded master's at that point or any other sort of education beyond where I was. So I was just at this standstill, like, what do I do? Well, during my junior year of college, I had decided to go study at the Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, and SCAD, as most people know it. And I studied costume design and drawing there, did a lot of other things. But I was there for just a year, kind of a year abroad, designed a program that would allow all of my credits to transfer back up to Smith and just get a new experience, because I was actually coming out of psychology and neuroscience and a lot of interest in that into art, which is interesting in itself because I always knew I wanted to be an artist. Yet when I got to college, I had a lot of people saying, oh, she's just an artist. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, I'm smart too. I can do other things. I'll go take some neuroscience classes and just prove to people that I can do this. But all of that, as much as I actually really ended up enjoying that and the social side of psychology, and especially the sports side, I really enjoyed sports psych. It just wasn't me, and I was doing it for other people.
Mm.
So I switched my major to art, and then I had a lot of catching up to do. And going to SCAD was such a godsend because it gave me a direction after I graduated to at least go do something different in a different place. So I got out of school and I just moved back to Savannah. Went from Massachusetts to Savannah and figured at the very least I'll get some warm weather and I'll
Mm.
figure out something. And had a roommate down there. Ended up shopping for a birthday present for my brother in Hollister one day and was offered a position as a manager. And I will tell you right now, if you are looking for a job, you can probably walk into a Hollister and Abercrombie and they'll say, "Do you have a degree?" And you can get a job. And so they'll just take anyone. But I was so proud. And then I realized that later. I was like, they are desperate. But that job was really good for me because I learned some management skills. I learned a lot of people skills and a lot of customer service. And I think that was actually what taught me exactly what I don't want to do in life, but it taught me a very hard schedule and it taught me a lot of responsibility in managing people. And I
Mm.
think that if I didn't have those things, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's cool how God works sometimes. You end up doing something you don't want to do, but it can still be used. So all of that to say, because I was with Hollister and Abercrombie, I actually met my husband. I wanted his job. He was a designer at the home office, which is in Columbus, Ohio, where we live now. And he leveraged that to get a date. And we've been married for almost 15 years now. So we went the entrepreneur route together. Once I met him, we aligned in the fact that we're both looking for other things in life. We were tired of the mundane, check off the box, and just get a paycheck and go home. We wanted so much more out of life together. And so we started doing entrepreneurial things together. We started working in social selling together. We started a t-shirt company together, traveled all over the United States. And that sort of started opening the doors for where we are today.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I did not know that about Blake. That is very cool. I'm excited to hear more about that story from him too. But what I love about that is I feel like a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs and women specifically, a lot of the things that we choose to do are seemingly kind of lonely and you kind of go in one direction and your spouse maybe goes in a different direction. But I love that you guys have been able to partner from the very beginning and doing something together, which seems very unique even in the entrepreneurship space. So that is really cool to see. Like you said, you've had to learn people skills. And for me, at least in our entrepreneurship journey, the people skills at home sometimes are the most important to learn. So I love that y'all
Oh
are
my
doing that.
gosh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn an awful lot. We fast tracked our dating relationship starting a company together. And so when we got engaged just 9 months after we were dating, people are like, that was fast. I'm like, not when you're working together 18 hours a day, every day. You know, at that point, like this is going to work or it's not. So
Yeah,
yeah.
in the team. I love it. So when did the HeARTwork by Kinnen come into this entrepreneurship story?
So, great question. It started 6 years ago. And the reason it came in was because Kinnen, who is 7 now, was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder when she was a year old. And that's a whole story in itself. She's doing great now. We have some ups and downs, but she was a year old when we brought her home from a very long hospital stay with a new diagnosis and feeding tubes and all of these things. And having an art background, I just always thought I'm going to teach my child how to paint. We're going to do a lot of art together. And she would be on these feeding tube schedules for, at the beginning, I want to say it was like an hour and a half at a time, about 7 times a day when she was around a year old. So for an hour and a half, keeping this little one sitting still. Now she can move around now, but back then we needed to keep her pretty still. So I would just start teaching her how to paint in her high chair. And then we would end up with stacks of these kids' paintings. And I consider myself somewhat of a minimalist, definitely a very aspiring minimalist. And so I would look at these and be like, we're not keeping them. Like they're one, I'll keep one as a memory. And one day I was looking at all of them and I thought, let's cut them all up into hearts and I'll just put them on a white background. So kind of like grid it out very graphic, and put it up in her room. So I did. And long story short, a few people saw it, they loved it, and asked if they could buy it. And I was like, I don't even, my 2-year-old painted this. So I can't sell it to you. And people knew that we had a lot of medical debt. So what we started getting from people was, if you're going to make these, let us at least send you a check and just put it towards Kinnen's medical bills. Don't worry about anything else. Like, don't come up with a price. Just we'll send you something, put it towards your bills. And we were like, okay. So we were accepting these gifts, just monetary gifts for her paintings, and quickly actually ended up paying off all of her medical debt, and then starting to be able to put aside money for her ongoing supplies. So I didn't intend to start a business. And I think that's kind of how things happen sometimes. You don't intend for it to be something, but sometimes it just is. And I remember praying about it, like, I've got a little girl, like, is it okay to be selling a child's artwork? Is there something wrong about this? She doesn't really fully know what's going on. But in the end, it's my business. And I only use pieces that, we've kind of worked on together. And it's not like I'm sitting her down and making her paint. She just, honestly, she's up there drawing right now. The girl draws all the time. So that's kind of where it started when she was 2. And so I said 6 years ago, it's 5 years, going into our 6th year this January.
So there's so much against you there. I feel like coming from a different, story, you hear a lot of times, I feel like it's medical debt, it's super hard on marriages. So it's just really cool to see that you guys found a way to overcome seemingly what was a hardship. I just love like when the Lord aligns, it opened doors and you didn't necessarily even plan to walk through that. But also, you guys are coming up on 15 years of marriage. So there's a lot of just healing, and I'm sure just things you guys have walked through on both sides, which I think is just really special. The things that you guys learned doing things together, working together so much. I'm sure some of those things that sustained you when things are probably not all butterflies and rainbows and super easy in the first few days. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
That.
Well, actually, can we talk about marriage? Can we talk about the marriage thing for a second? When
Love
we
it.
walked out of the hospital, a social worker met us at the door. And this is actually, there's a piece of this in our video on our website, but met us at the door and gave us this whole walkthrough and kind of, here's what to expect. And one of the most shocking things we heard was that because our child had this diagnosis, we now had I don't want to get the number wrong, but it was 70 or more % chance of divorce because of the hardship, the road that we were about to walk down. And a lot of it was going to come down to money, financial struggles, and stress. And that is so sad to hear. But now that, we've been walking this out and I'm exposed to and relate to a lot more families in this space, I see how true that is for many people. So Blake and I heard that and immediately said, no, that's not going to be us. And I know it's one thing to say it. It's very hard to walk that out. But
yeah,
that's a huge point that you brought up.
Do you, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, what are some things you think that helped you guys overcome when maybe some other couples fall into that 70%?
Well, 100% our faith. I don't know how people get through hard times without it.
Yeah.
And a strong one at that. Constantly being in scripture together, being aligned together, having goals together. And I do think that us pursuing entrepreneurship together, instead of, as you said at the beginning, he's going one way and I'm going the other, having common projects to work on and keeping very clear communication, making sure that we keep each other a priority as opposed to the child becoming everything that we see, which I think is a major challenge. I can speak for myself. It's very hard as a mother to not always be thinking of your kids, period. But when you have to attend to your child every 45 minutes of the day, all day, or their life is on the line, it's hard to put anybody above that. And, we are in a position with Kinnen where she's very stable and it's a lot easier to live. But at the beginning, it was very, very time consuming. It still is. It's just that we're in our groove now. But I see a lot of families that have it way harder than we do. And it's very challenging if you don't have that alignment together.
Yeah. That
It's a
makes a
good
lot of sense.
question.
Yeah. And then it sounds like so you've transitioned into homeschooling then, which I feel like became very popular during the pandemic and shutdown. So what is that? So now you have a 2-year-old today. Happy birthday.
Hmm.
So now you're dealing not only with
Yeah,
the
Wes
Kinnen
is too.
baby and you're homeschooling. So how do you juggle all that? Plus you have businesses. So I don't even know. I mean, it just sounds like you're spinning so many plates. So how do you juggle all of that?
It's I have learned that you have to know when to put down some plates and
Mm,
which ones are the most important. And there are seasons for everything. So I actually was homeschooled myself. I was I started in a private Christian school, and then I was homeschooled for 3 years during middle school, which was one of the best things my mom ever did for us. I think it was critical that she had her attention on us during those years, and we were heavily influenced by my parents and their relationship during that time. So homeschool
mm,
was always on my radar. And it was actually one of those things that Blake and I talked about when we were dating. Hey, is homeschool cool with you? Because I had a great experience and I see the direction of things right now. And I really would like to have that as an opportunity. It doesn't have to be what happens, but when that time comes, is it on the table? And the closer we got to Kinnen being of school age, it was always the option. We just knew it was the right thing for her. When she was diagnosed, and then later diagnosed with autism and a global developmental delay, it became very apparent that I wanted to spend this time with her.
mhm.
Um, and so it's not, I think about this a lot because I'll run into teachers or school specialists that are familiar with her diagnosis and can completely handle her. I'm not saying that they couldn't, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I would miss out on that time with her if she was at school. And
Mhm.
so would Wesley. And with them having a 5-year age gap, one of the most important things to me right now is that they have a strong bond and a really solid connection. Now, right now, they fight a lot and fight each other, and you know, it's
That's their connection.
interesting, but they do love each other. Yeah, they're constantly connected. But they wouldn't have the relationship and
Mhm.
know each other as well as they do if she was, gone at a typical school most of the day. So
Mhm.
homeschool's really neat because you can adapt to both kids so easily. I found some great books and podcasts and talked to amazing friends that homeschool multiple kids, multiple ages. And it's just a practice that takes time like anything else. Now, juggling business with that and home and all of those things, I think that changes based on the season and based on your children. So we're currently in a season of cutting back in certain areas because school is a very big priority. We're about to jump into a new season with Kinnen with some new therapies, and Wesley's going to be able to be a part of some of this. So
Mm.
that will be really fun. I'll be able to incorporate a lot there, and then pull from Blake taking them at times during the day so I can go get some stuff done. We have a great calendar that we've worked out the last couple of months that allows each of us to have pockets of hours, not just like an hour here, but hours. Every week it's predictable. I know exactly when my hours are, I know when his are.
Mhm.
And since we started doing that, I feel like we get a lot more done in a much shorter amount of time. And we also put more focus on our children because we know that that time is coming instead of me in the past wondering, like, am I ever going to get a shower? you know? So having these predictable parameters in place makes a big difference.
I would love that. I think especially from an entrepreneurship space, you take for granted how important communication is, which you mentioned with you and Blake already, but that calendar sort of is a form of communication, at least for us. And it's so, we can kind of see where each other are. But I love that you said, like, I know I'm going to get this time. So my feet can be firmly planted. I can be fully present where I am. And I don't
Mhm.
have to have my phone or all the things that you're trying to juggle. If you know, okay, that block of time is coming and this can all go in that block of time, which I think is crucial. Just managing your top priorities, and your kids are obviously have to be a part of that, but so does your business too. And so you find where they fit in your day, and you know where your energy fits in all that, and where you can kind of just be fully present. That's awesome. One thing I
Absolutely.
hear
Yeah.
about moving from a corporate space over into more of an entrepreneurship space is maybe you're taking a risk by moving from one way to another. Did you have any, I don't know, sort of hesitations in moving from, it sounds like corporate job, maybe working up to your dream designer job into more of an entrepreneurship space, or maybe now you don't have the guaranteed benefits or all that stuff.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. And I can totally understand why that's scary for a lot of people. But I think that, it's funny you asked this because I was thinking about this earlier today. Um, I, there's this, and again, like I'm coming from a perspective of a Christian, I have a peace when I am taking the step, even if it's
Mhm.
scary. If I don't have that peace, like it's okay to have butterflies or to be uncomfortable. Like sometimes that's a really good thing. But
Yep.
always asking God, like, is this a door that is closed or is this a door you want me to break down? And sometimes it's in that breaking down and pushing through that you get that momentum and that peace. And a lot of times the walls are just the voices around us and the people that maybe love us the most that are telling us we can't do it or we shouldn't do it or this isn't what you went to school for or whatever. And
Yep.
I do think a lot of that pushback can come from some of the most well meaning places, whether it's ourselves or loved ones. But for Blake and I, we have more of an entrepreneurial spirit in us, typically,
Mhm.
I would say. And we were always doing something else in addition to our corporate jobs. So I don't think it really shocked a whole lot of people when we were like, bye, we're going to go do our own thing now.
Yeah.
But we were careful and calculated about it. And actually, I can speak for Blake. He just 7 months ago, I think it was, left his corporate job and is a full time business owner. He owns a design and consulting firm. We still work in social selling together and are thriving in that opportunity business. But he has, that was probably a bigger risk from his perspective, a father taking care of two kids, one that's medically complex and taking that risk on to walk away from a good paying corporate job and pursue his own thing. Yet the second he did, we were like, we should have done it sooner.
Wow.
And I wish that we did.
That's so good to hear. Yeah, it's just I think like you said, it's the voices and it's either coming from ourselves or people that we're spending time with that we do care about and probably do care about us as well. But I like what you said about, and I don't even know how this played out for you guys, but it sounded like you maybe had to switch some of the voices that were pouring into you, whether it was friends or whatever. Maybe you moved into different circles to put other people's voices in you, maybe telling you like, no, you can't do this. This is a good idea, or it's been done before and we can walk through it with you. So how did that sort of play out for you guys with obviously him making that big step and as a father and providing for you guys, and now were there any times where you had to cut people out of your life, maybe not in a bad way, but just maybe changing some of the people or even social media things? I think about like content creators, and I'm using that in quotes for people who are listening. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're taking in the content, but I think sometimes we don't necessarily know who's creating the content that's we're consuming so much every single day. So there's some things that you guys had to switch moving from the corporate space to the entrepreneurship space of who you were listening to, who you were spending time around, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can touch first on the content on social media and things like that. Now, we're older, so I've been on Facebook since 2004, I think, and Instagram since the week it came out. So it's just a part of culture and life for me. I think that once we stepped out and started doing something different and people started hearing like they don't have normal jobs anymore. Um, then we started getting some like, do you guys really think you can do this? And some doubt. I would actually say we didn't. I know I have friends that are very successful entrepreneurs that have been just hammered by friends and family or naysayers, whoever they are. And we have certainly had that, but I will say, fortunately, we've had very supportive family, and most of our good friends have been very supportive. But the friends that haven't been, I've realized that it's one of two things. They're watching to see if we're going to succeed. And then they
Mhm.
come alongside like they were cheering for us the whole time. Or they just
Yep.
weren't good friends to begin with. They were more like proximity, like they're just close by. So we did things together. And they're good
Yep.
people. We're just not walking the same path. So, does that answer your question there?
It does. Yeah, great answer. Anything you want to share about your story? Just kind of any surprise twists and turns. Obviously, you guys were handed a diagnosis, and so sometimes life it seems like happens to you, but it sounds like you guys have turned it into something that maybe happened for you.
Yeah, yeah. That's a that's such a good way to put it, Ashley, because life life is going to happen. I remember when this whole thing went down. I'm a new mom, and I was 33. She was my first child. Like I said, Wes just turned 2 today, and it was shocking because you just never imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
And even in it's, there's so many things that have happened. So I'm kind of trying to figure out like where to even start on this question, because one of the things that I think surprised me the most was the people that came and had our back immediately. And we had
Mm-hmm.
spent time to go off of your last question, carefully curating a group of people around us, because neither of our families are here. Now our families are amazing and they came for us and they were there in a heartbeat. But we've carefully curated a group of people around us locally where we just have each other's backs. And when you walk through something hard together, it makes all the difference. It's really hard when something happens to lean into help and to make
Mm-hmm.
a phone call and say, I need you to do this for me. Because you don't want to, I don't know, maybe it's me, but I feel like a lot of women especially can relate. Like you don't want to inconvenience people. Even kind of curveball got thrown to us on Christmas Eve. Uh, Kinnen came down with a stomach bug, and her diagnosis is glycogen storage disease 1A. When she can't keep food down, her blood sugar plummets very quickly. And her blood sugar was not even reading on the monitor. It would go up and then go right back down. And we couldn't get a number from her for over an hour. It would go up enough that we'd be like, okay, maybe we can keep her home. But we ended up calling EMS and getting her right down to Children's. They ended up having to put her on an IV, and she was in the hospital on Christmas Eve, which is my birthday, and then most of Christmas Day. And we didn't expect that. It was really funny. She was telling everybody when she kind of like became more aware and was like doing a little bit better once we got her on her IV and everything. She was like, today's my mom's birthday. She's 41. And I'm like, okay, Kenan, thank you. Everybody in the hospital knew it was my birthday. But that was a little like God blessing in that, because I could have chosen to be really sad, like, oh, it's my birthday, I'm in the hospital, it's not where I want to be. Well, first of all, I'm 41, I need to be an adult about it, and a birthday is a birthday. And I don't know if we have birthdays in heaven, I don't really care, it's just kind of a nice time to get a few presents and cake. But we just happened to spend this one in the hospital. It's a story now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how we've chosen to look at a lot of things is, okay, great. It's part of our story. How do
Yeah.
we go through this the best that we can? Take the time to process the emotions and the challenges and the things that come out of it, and not suppress it, which I've done in the past, but learn to
Mm-hmm.
grow through it so that then we can turn around and help someone else. I think
Mm-hmm.
you've probably read this book, The Dream Giver. Have you read that?
Yes, I have.
Do you know
Good
that
one.
one? I love that book. Okay, so in that book, there's always, and if you guys haven't read The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson, it is so good. If you can pick up that book, do it. It's short, it's sweet, it's a parable that teaches you how to chase your dreams and the type of interference that will come after you, but also the type of champions that will lift you through hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And in the story, there is this part where this this I think his name is Nobody, and he lives in the land of Ordinary, or his name is Ordinary, lives in, I don't know, either way. But he has a bridge that he needs to go over, and somebody else went ahead of him and built that bridge so that he could pass over, because maybe he wasn't strong enough to do it, but he does it. And that gives him the courage to then keep going. And then he's going to go and build something for someone else because he had that little push and that encouragement. And then this champion that came for him and kind of pulled him through that part. And so I love that book. And there's so many situations in life that we go through, whether it's, specifically the medical things we've been through, or people in business that have just been really nasty and told us we can't achieve our dreams, or whatever it might be. we always have the opportunity to think, well, I can reach out for somebody to help me through this, or I can go and build that bridge if I can't find that person. And then I get to be that champion for the next person that needs somebody to pull them across. And I think when we have that perspective, it helps you do really hard things. And,
Mm-hmm.
always as a believer too, I'm leaning into the Lord through this. We spent when we first went into the hospital with Kinnen when she was 1, we wrote scriptures on paper and printed off pictures of her as the healthiest she had ever been. And we pinned them up all over her room, all over her bed, scriptures all around her head. And then we stood there with the book of Psalms open and we just read it over and over and over, because when you're going through something tough, sometimes you don't know what to say, you don't know what to believe, you're bombarded by all of these negative thoughts. But if you have a plan in place ahead of time and something to lean on, and you know what you believe, and if you don't know what you believe, you're going to fall for anything. So you better figure that out now and have a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We had that in place. And it's not because we're better than anyone. It's because somebody told us to do that and we listened. So we would read scripture over her and we would see the nurses and the doctors walk into her room and go, "What a beautiful little girl." And instead of looking at the child in the bed, that later on, we were approached by the neurosurgeon, the head neurosurgeon at Children's, in a restaurant. He randomly recognized us and was like, "You're that family." And we're like, "I don't know who you are." But he came up to us and said he remembered us. And I know now it's because we were doing that in there. And we were telling people, "Look at this healthy girl. Let's get her back. Let's do this." Instead of looking at this little girl that he told us a year later, he's like, "She shouldn't be here." And at that moment, I don't know if I just didn't realize what was happening in the moment, like back then or not, but I think in my mind, I knew how bad it was, but in my heart, I was so hopeful and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
letting go of that hope.
Yeah.
But when he said she shouldn't be here, I realized, good thing I had all that other stuff in place to help us walk through and keep our eyes focused on the Lord and focus on getting her healthy instead of looking at this child who now I look back at pictures and I had a very hard time for a long time even looking at them, because I look
Yeah.
at them now and I'm like, how did we do this? So yeah, but there's always opportunities to just plant that good stuff in you now so that when something happens, you have it and you're ready. And I pray nothing happens to anybody. I don't want anything, but we all know, like, it's just life. So some
Yeah.
stuff happens.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I will include that book in the show notes. It's a really good one, first of all. But I love too that you were saying, like the words that are around you and the things that you look at certainly matter. And I love in that moment that you guys were proactive and not just receiving things that were spoken to you or over you by physicians or people, whatever. You were proactive in saying, like, this is what we're going to speak over her and this is what we're going to put in front of us visually. And I think my experience has been like you guys, it's so powerful. And you kind of tell your brain what to look at and what to believe. And it's like you said, you do the best that you can with what you have, but you trying to figure that out in the moment, it's not as good probably if you already have the skill set and it's something that your mind already knows how to do. So that is beautiful. And I would say whatever path anyone's taken with any sort of
Totally.
dream, to have that aligned no matter which way you want to go in that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anything that you want to share, if someone were coming here to listen, medical family or not, any of the things, is there anything that you would point someone to who maybe has a dream they feel like they have locked inside of them, entrepreneurship or otherwise, that maybe they want to see come to fruition? Especially, I know we're approaching a new year and that seems to be just like a magical time of people writing new goals and thinking of things and how they want to change things for 2024.
Yeah, it is. It definitely does seem like a magical time of year. I mean, you got Christmas and then all the sparkles come in with the new year. And I don't know, there's just something about 2024 that feels like, I don't know, the sky is the limit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell people, stop second guessing and just go for it. I think
Mm-hmm.
so many times we're like, we'll do it when we've got enough research. We'll do it when this, we'll do it when that. And I also think sometimes people are like, they lean on, well, let me pray about it. Let me think about it. And it's like, sometimes you have to take stinking action fast, or
Yeah.
it's gone. The opportunity is gone. The feelings you have become confusing and you're like, oh, I guess it wasn't for me. What if it was? What if it was what you were supposed to do, but you didn't even try? And the worst thing that can happen is you try is maybe you fail, and who cares? You can learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if somebody has a dream locked inside of them, which read that book, The Dream Giver, we all do. The Lord has given every single one of us a dream in our heart. And if you aren't pursuing it, you will never feel fulfilled. You just won't, because you're not doing what He's called you to do, that good and perfect will that He has placed in your life. And so getting up and just taking action. It doesn't have to be perfect. It shouldn't. And actually, we live in a world where, you mentioned content creation earlier, and the world of social media has changed so much. It's gone from this world where everything is picture perfect and has to be designer and everything is curated, all great. I if I could turn my computer around right now, like you see wallpaper behind me, if I turn it this way, there's a child's building project on the floor. There's like I don't know why we decided that this is the year we're going to build them a giant climbing structure. And that's been on the floor for 3 days. Like, that is the type of thing, though, that's so normal. We need to normalize the imperfect and stop second guessing and stop saying, I've got to research this. I've got to plan it perfectly. When I get the planner, when I have this, when I have that, just go do it messy and figure it out as you go. And you'll learn so much more. I think sometimes when we try to make it perfect before we go, one, we lose the momentum and the dreams start to kind of feel stale in a way sometimes.
Yeah.
And two, you don't get that experience of the failure along the way. Sometimes failure right out the gate is the best thing you can experience because it gives you that first opportunity to learn and get up and do it again. So that would be my advice. Just do
I
it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's kind of organically become our tagline around here is let's do this. And I think, like you said, someone that we listen to says, action cures fear. And it really is. It's like fear is something that's on the way to success a lot of times, not like opposite of success. So it's cool to see if you just press through, like you said, and who you become through it is so much better than going around it. So I will certainly link that book here. And anything else you want to share about HeARTwork? I know you guys are going to have some changes in 2024, but I think it's a really special place to follow along for encouragement and stories and just to see you guys have overcome incredible odds. And I'm happy to send anyone your way if you want to share where people can find you and stay up to date on you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking about that and bringing up HeARTwork and all of these things. So HeARTwork for the last 5 years has been art, like it's hearts and art. And it's been a lot of art creation between Kinnen and I. And we are in a season where she is going to be receiving some new therapies that are pretty intense. We're going to be focusing a lot on some behavioral challenges, which she is the sweetest, most wonderful little girl, but this is a time where we need to kind of hone in on some things that she specifically needs for her development, and this is the year to do it. So
Mhm.
I didn't want to just totally hang up HeARTwork because the message behind it is really more about community and connection and letting people know that we're here and we're walking maybe the same very unique, weird path. And we've made so many great connections through the Instagram account HeARTwork by Kinnen and through our website. So my intent is to see how things go with her over the next couple of months. We'll be taking a break from creating actual artwork. There are a few pieces still for sale on her site. We're doing an end of the year kind of closeout sale. And from there, we will be spending more time in storytelling and connection and sharing resources and things like that, more blogs, but we'll be heavier on the communication side of things. My friend Amber of Embracing Small Steps and I have also started a YouTube channel called Making Lemon Cake or Lemon Cake. I'll have to send that to you too, so you can link it if you want to, or check it out if you feel it's a good fit. But because right now I'm like, what did we even end up naming it? I forget the actual YouTube link. But we address a lot of concerns and some fun stories. We try to keep it really lighthearted. with being medically complex families. Amber owns a planasium that is specifically built for adaptive play. And we met there. It's been an amazing relationship. She's an awesome entrepreneur herself. And so we will be upping this podcast, this YouTube channel, and just addressing a lot of concerns that people have when they have a medically complex kiddo. But we keep it fun because we say when life hands you lemons, sometimes lemonade just isn't going to cut it. You need to make a cake.
I
So
love
lemon
it.
cake.
Oh, yes. I will include all that in our show notes, but that sounds amazing. I'm here for a lemon cake. That's awesome.
Right?
Well, thank you so much again, Chelsea, for taking time away from your family today and just sharing your story. I know that's going to be such a blessing to so many people. And thank you to you, friend, for listening to Unlock Your Dream podcast this week. Give us a follow and comments, and please feel free to share this with any friends or families in different situations that might receive some encouragement. And we will see you next week on Unlock Your Dream podcast. Let's do this. Okay, friend, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Feel free to share this podcast with another friend who it may inspire. Leave a review to possibly be featured at the beginning of another episode, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the stories that could help unlock your dream for you.